excited to have Nick or Michael from Mandala Chain. We had the opportunity to hang out last year in Bali for CoinFest, which was really eye-opening to me. I got to see how enthusiastic people are for new technologies in Indonesia. Some people may not know, but Indonesia is the fourth largest population in the world. Was it like 300 million people or somewhere around there? It's a lot of people.
Yeah, just under. Yeah, 280 something million. Yep.
Yep. And so we had Polkadot and Mandala sponsoring CoinFest last year, and the people coming up to the booth, just curious about the technology, curious about what Mandala is working on, curious about Polkadot. It was a really insightful, good time, and so that's why I'm really happy to have you back on the live stream, Michael. So you are the co-founder of Republic Labs and Mandala Chain. Could you just start off by telling us a bit about each of those projects?
Yeah. So they flow onto each other. So I'm obviously not Indonesian. I'm Australian. I moved to Indonesia with my wife in 2018, for just a little bit pre-COVID, and just kind of fell in love with the place and thought it was just such an amazing, like, eclectic mix of people from all over the world. I had gotten into blockchain in 2017, just trading Ethereum and all that sort of stuff, losing money on Bitcoin as everyone does in their first cycle. Um, and then, we decided to stay. So we just stayed. I was working online, and so I had a little online business. And so, yeah, we stayed there. And during COVID obviously shut everything down, and we all just went deep down the blockchain rabbit holes. And I discovered Polkadot, and I got very early into sort of the pre-parachain launch era, like shortly thereafter. But during lockdown, we'd already had a couple of local like friends who were also into blockchain, and realized that there was no real good education in Bahasa Indonesia, the Indonesian language. And so we started to just make content while we were in lockdown in Indonesian, and it took off. And so, like, I think inside 12 months, we already had 100,000 subscribers on YouTube under the Republic Rupiah brand. Rupiah is the local currency in Indonesia. So the dollar republic, I guess it translates perfectly to. Um, and yeah, so we actually built out quite a big community and became one of the largest blockchain communities in Indonesia. And yeah, so that was a whirlwind in of itself. So we had a whole new operation happening. And it was just after COVID sort of finished that I got a knock on the door from a guy who I had yet to meet, but I'd heard about because we'd all obviously been in lockdown. His name was Anta, and he was a local Balinese guy, and he ran a dev shop. And it turned out that he had been starting to be asked questions about blockchain and all sorts by some government like colleagues that he had. And so he came to me to say, "Hey, how can I explain this?" So we put together a 2-day boot camp, and we had like 80 politicians that came along. We
Wow.
taught them all about blockchain, and from there, like, the requests started coming for implementation of blockchain into their various different government departments. And so the opportunity was born from Mandala, and then from yeah, his company Baliola. So yeah, that was the beginning of the Mandala project, from both my, I guess, media outlet and from his dev shop.
That's incredible. And so this was right after COVID, so we're talking like 2022-ish, right?
Yeah, a
And
little
a
bit earlier. Yeah, yeah,
little bit
just
earlier.
yeah, late 21. Yep.
And I believe Anta was also a student at the Polkadot Blockchain Academy at one point. Is that right?
Yeah, so shortly thereafter, like, we was trying to figure out, like, how are we going to do this? Like, what would we do? And he had actually already started building, because he obviously had a blockchain dev shop, and he'd built an NFT marketplace on Avalanche. And he was playing around with like just different types of wallets. And so we thought, well, how do we bring like a government to like a blockchain without sort of bastardizing the technology a little bit and making it so that it's all dystopian and centralized? And I was a big Polkadot fan from way back, and so we thought, well, let's just copy the Polkadot model. Like, we've got the relay chain, and you've got all these parachains. Well, what if our parachain, we become a parachain, and these government chains and these government applications can kind of be secured by, or relay through us? And so yeah, it was from there that he went and joined PBA in Singapore and graduated from Polkadot Blockchain Academy. And yeah, we've gone down the Polkadot path ever since.
That's awesome. And yeah, you mentioned the government ministers and so on. So when I was in Bali with you guys last summer, there, in addition to CoinFest, it was also the Bali Blockchain Summit, which was a huge spectacle. A lot of excitement around it. And people traveling from all over Indonesia to attend, government officials, which was just incredible. I think the governor or the mayor of Bali was there as well. So a
Yep.
huge reception for them. Tell me a bit about. I see we have some people in the chat here from Indonesia. So we have Pungasha that says hello. I think Salamat pagi. I think that's how you say hello in Bahasa.
Yeah, yeah. Selamat sore this time of the day,
Salamat
evening. So,
sore. I
yep.
should mention to the listeners, we can see the chat on X. So if you have a question, you can leave it in the chat. We can address it at the end. But tell me a bit about just sort of the problem you guys are trying to solve. I mean, so what I learned when I was in Indonesia is that it's hundreds of thousands of islands, different languages, different cultures. And that means that the governments are sometimes operating on different infrastructure. So it is a one unified country, but there's all of these very small subdivisions that have a hard time communicating with each other. So just tell us a bit about Indonesia and what is Mandala Chain looking to do?
Yeah, well, the main thing that first happened is that we realized that there was a couple of different, like, really interesting use cases that some of these government departments were asking for, and there's probably about 12 or 15 like really like good possibility um, use cases, good possible use cases that kind of have come from that main initial boot camp. But of the core main infrastructure, I think there's really 4 or 6 like really specific use cases that we're trying to implement. And that's we wanted to create an environment where a government, an enterprise, or a retail application could all coexist in the same environment and all be interoperable with each other. And so Indonesia themselves are very fragmented, like you mentioned. Like you have different provinces, and so sometimes these provinces, I guess, they would work like states in the
Yeah.
US, um, but they all have their own autonomy. And the thing that I found very interesting is that some of these provinces are actually kingdoms that have a king, and everything
Wow.
inside that king is not necessarily a democracy. They have a sultan, and everything inside that sultan is like run by a monarch, but then they are subject to the president of the country. And then
Right.
you've got other places that are just pure democracies. Um, so it's a very eclectic mix of different governance styles. They have a high level of independence and autonomy, and they didn't really talk to each other as a country. And there was like data protection and data sovereignty had been a huge issue. There'd been a few hacks that have happened along the way. And so they wanted to kind of figure out how could they unify the data sharing, how could they trust each other without having to trust each other, and how could we have sort of unified systems that would solve real world problems like data protection, like identity, like healthcare, insurance, banking. The banking infrastructure is still very underdeveloped, and so yeah, so that's what they're trying to solve with blockchain.
Got it. And you guys are collaborating with some of these government entities or ministries and so on. If my memory serves
Yep.
correctly, can you tell us just a little bit about that?
Yeah, so like West Java, for example, is the island of Java is one of the major islands of Indonesia. The island of Java, not many people would have heard of it if you're not from this part of the world, but it's got more people than Russia in
Yeah.
in a small island.
If you drink coffee, you're familiar with Java.
Java, yes, exactly. It's where it comes from.
Yeah.
And so West Java is a province of the island of Java, and they've got something like 50 million people. It's like a big, big territory. And so they've just launched their own siloed chain. It's a substrate chain, but it's going to be run by them. They will run all the nodes inside the country, but it is effectively a fork of Mandala chain. And so Mandala
Yeah.
will act like the relay chain that will connect this government chain to the greater, I guess, blockchain ecosystem. And so we can connect to Polkadot, Polkadot can connect to Ethereum and all the other substrate based chains. So what it does is it takes these government applications and makes them interoperable with like the new Web3 internet. And so they're trying to use it for data protection. They've got like a HR play, but they're really focused at the moment on some health initiatives and trying to track and trace why malnutrition has happened traditionally. Like a lot of Indonesians are quite short in some instances through malnutrition. There's been like intergenerational stunting. And so they're trying to find out and track data about how they can prevent this, how they can increase the basic health benefits from different initiatives that the government rolls out. And so this will all be done on chain. They will all own it, but it's fully interoperable with the broader Polkadot ecosystem through the Mandala parachain.
That's amazing. And the government of Indonesia have released their is it the Vision 2045? So basically, they've identified key sectors of the economy that they want to grow, and blockchain was there's blockchain, AI,
Listed.
energy, and
Yep.
so on, but blockchain was one of the key focuses. So there's lots of opportunities in Indonesia. But your guys is well, actually, before we get to that, are there any challenges with launching a project or building a blockchain in a an emerging market?
Yeah, there are a lot of challenges. And so for those that have been following the project for a long time, will know that we want a parachain slow. We've obviously still have not deployed our mainnet yet. And this is not because we haven't wanted to, but because there's a lot of complexities when dealing with government agencies, and obviously we've got to move at the speed that they want to move. And so we do appreciate the patience from the community for those that have been with us for a long time. But it's because we're moving some pretty powerful entities involved in the project, and we can only move at the speed that they want to move at. There's obviously a lot of internal testings and things that has to happen, and there's a lot of different opinions about how things should play out, and what's the security measures, and what does decentralization look like for a government entity, and how decentralized can they be. And so we've had to not necessarily move at the speed that the team wants to move. We're subject to a lot of other opinions, and we're trying to. Sometimes it's felt like herding cats, but we think that it'll be worth it in the end, because we are really trying to make best use of the best, what we feel is the best technology in the space,
Yeah.
and really bring it to masses and mass adoption.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, good things come to all those that wait. So, and it's important to get this right because when you have governments relying on you, it's it just has to be perfect. Um, but you guys have, the vision is even bigger than in just Indonesia. It's to expand outside. So I would wondering if you could tell us a bit about that. But also, you have a really strong team. If you could just tell us a little bit more about, some the other people working at Mandala, some of their backgrounds. Go into that.
Yeah. Well, we've really sort of modeled the project off of a decentralized environment from day one, and we have mimicked a lot of Polkadot's infrastructure, even in the Web2 sort of side of business. So Baliola, Anta's main business, the Indonesian dev shop, I guess they kind of play the role that Parity would play inside Polkadot. We did come together, both Republic Labs, sort of the media and community arm, and Baliola, and created the Mandala Chain Foundation, which I guess would work as kind of like what the Web3 Foundation does. And so I run Republic Labs, and I'm dealing with sort of the community side and dealing with more some of the app development, which happens on top of Mandala Chain. Baliola is dealing more so with the government directly and sort of the applications that will be built on chain by the government. And Mandala Chain Foundation is really now the steward of the actual project. And that's dealt and headed up by Matt Paul, who's the CEO
Yeah.
of the Mandala Chain Foundation. And he's a great guy. He's got a long history in blockchain. He's worked in a fair few different gaming companies inside Web3. He was originally a Cardano educator back in the day, but we've
Oh,
got him
wow.
we got him to see the light and come over. We got him to see the pink light and cut him to come over to Polkadot. But he's doing a great job, and he's running the foundation, and he's also headed up by a really great C-suite team with Alex Hogan, who is the COO, and he's running operations there. Really sharp operator, former engineer.
Yeah.
And then Matt Cook, who is our business development arm, who's got a really long history of TradFi and business development, growing up in Hong Kong, being an American who grew up in Hong Kong. And so that team is really strong. They've done a great job. They've been able to build out the tech team and the technical talent inside the Mandala Chain Foundation itself. So they now run the core infrastructure of the chain. And so we're really lucky we sort of took the best that we could find in this part of the world, and we built the super team.
That's amazing. I mean, and that was the exact feeling that I got when I was there in Bali at CoinFest, hanging out with the Web3 community there. They all had great things to say about, the entire Mandala team. And, when people say, this old thing that you hear from like VCs and so on, it's like, you're not really investing in the product. Sometimes you're investing in the team that can make it happen. And hanging out with you guys for a week was just, it was really great to see all the work you guys are putting in, and I'm super excited for what's coming next from Mandala. So speaking of that, I mean, tell us a little bit about the roadmap. Kind of like let's say in 5 years from now, like where do you see Mandala Chain?
Oh, I think the beauty of it is the word mandala means cosmos in
Yeah.
Sanskrit, and so Bali is a Hindu-based island, and so there's a lot of Sanskrit words which have integrated into the language, and so we for those that know the cosmos ecosystem, the idea was that it was like the internet of blockchains, and so
Right.
Polkadot has like what I feel is like a more superior model to that technology stack. And so Mandala, we really do hope that it is the internet of blockchains, but with a specific use case. And we do think that this is like a little sandbox, a big sandbox, I guess you could say, with the fourth largest country in the world, where we can show exactly what this tech can do. And really, like we weren't developers originally. This is a very much a business development opportunity to take Web3 technology to a place that it's probably never been before. And so we would love to see this implemented in other countries. And we're already having that conversation. And we're like itching to make a couple of announcements about places that this tech will be rolled out with, because we're not just an Indonesian project. This will be rolled across multiple jurisdictions and places outside of Indonesia. And we've got some very juicy things which we're hoping to announce, and we're just waiting for official sign off before we can. But suffice to say that this is not just going to be an Indonesia based project. This is going to be used in other places as well. And using the Indonesian model where you can have, semi permissioned environments where it needs to be, but also then, a more open and permissionless environment also. And so I would love to see in 5 years' time that we see the Mandala tech stack has been used and implemented across multiple jurisdictions. And ultimately, all of that value then flows back into the broader Polkadot ecosystem, because we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. Like, we've got great technology through all of our other like brother and sister chains that exist inside the ecosystem, and the rising tide lifts all ships.
Yep.
And so we think that this particular use case really can sort of open doors that haven't been opened before.
Speaking of, your brother and sister chains, you guys were also at Decoded
Mhm.
in Belgium last summer.
Yep.
And what do you guys have any relationships with other Polkadot parachains or rollups? And any partnerships? Are you working with them in any way? Are you just
Yeah.
in conversation with other teams, sharing best practices, anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, we've been trying to touch base with as many as we can, and we've had a conversation with probably most of the chains now. Um, we obviously like are pretty bullish on like all of the existing, like we're calling them the legacy chains that are in the space now, like people like your Moonbeams and your Hydrations.
Yeah.
We do feel like this is going to be a fundamental thing that we would utilize. But then we've also been really focusing on what we're calling like next gen Polkadot. So projects like Acurus, which are really interesting in what
Yeah.
they're doing with the compute space, which is going to be a very big part of Indonesia's economy. Hyperbridge, we hope to be able to implement a lot of their tech and be able to, cross-chain liquidity from the Ethereum ecosystem into Mandala, and then obviously in vicariously into Polkadot. We're talking with Excavate about sort of that real world asset stuff, because I think that would be very pertinent in this part of the world. Kylix is another really interesting sort of lend and borrow DeFi application. But I think Polymech has been a huge supporter of us as well. We've been able to lean on those guys like quite fundamentally at various different times. So like we came to the Polkadot ecosystem because we didn't want to do this alone. We knew that this was a big opportunity, and we wanted to be able to lean on other people, and hopefully we can sort of bring some use case to these projects as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, a lot of solid teams that you just named there. We have a live stream coming up with Accuras probably next week. Let's just shift gears a little bit. And as the head of Republic Labs, you do a lot of community building and Web3 marketing. What's your current view on marketing in Web3?
Yep.
Whether it's Kaido or community building, Discord versus Telegram, just meetups, events, like open book. You can tell us whatever you want. Like, what's your take on the state of Web3 marketing?
How controversial should we get?
We can get very controversial.
um,
That's that equates to clicks, right?
okay, so like obviously I've not built you know a huge enterprise or anything like that, but we have a significant community. Like I think we run a channel that's about 170,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Awesome.
Our metrics, we're probably having about 250,000 people engage with one of our platforms every quarter at the moment.
Wow.
So I know what it's like to community build, and I know what it's like to be a KOL, key
Yeah.
opinion leader in the space. Um, and a lot of the time, it's very hard to get people to activate something that they may see. Like opinions are very hard to shift. When we first started, everyone was talking about Binance coins and like Binance Smart Chain coins, and that was like that summer of Binance Smart Chain scams that like kind of kicked off a lot. And that was really the only like affordable alternative to Ethereum at the time. And you've seen the meta shift between like people chasing like meme coins on Solana, or trying to trade whatever the next new AI agent type sort of thing might be. Um, when it comes to Polkadot, I do specifically feel like the tech is the best in space. But that's because I'm privileged enough that I get to research this stuff all day, every day. And I do have a very firm understanding of most ecosystems. Like we're a blockchain agnostic platform. So I'm the Polkadot guy inside our ecosystem in Republic. So I've engaged with like the blockchain foundations from all of the major, blockchain ecosystems. And while I love our tech stack the most, mindshare is important. What's even worse than what's even worse than people saying bad things about you is people saying nothing about you. And
Yes,
so,
absolutely.
yeah, I do feel it's very important to be up in lights and to be able to promote what we're doing. It can't just be like build the best tech and people will come, because that's a path that's been well trodden and failed by many projects from the 17 era, from the 21 era.
Right.
So work like what you do here, like on the channel, and work like what Jay does at the Kusumerian, I think is super important. But we need to take the tech to the people. And sometimes getting in the developer mindset and just thinking like we just need to build, we just need to build, we just need to build. Like I personally don't feel like that equates to success, because I've seen many really great, fundamentally technologically sound projects that no one uses. And so it's important that we get in front of people.
I couldn't agree more. And that's why it's important to have, presence at events like CoinFest, take the brand to the people. So speaking of that, there is the Polkadot Blockchain Academy coming to Bali. Is it in August? It's in August.
Yes.
Yes.
Late August. Yep.
Do you guys have anything planned for that? I'm sure you're going to be there. Tell us a bit about what's going on during that week.
We do. I think we're going to actually have a big formal kickoff announcement for it coming in the next week as well with the PBA.
Awesome.
But we're very excited to sort of host these guys out in Bali. Like Indonesia is just an incredible place for like how young the talent is.
It's amazing.
Like Bali, the island itself, which is a province of Indonesia, has about 5 million people and 17 universities just on the island.
Yeah.
So we're expecting a huge cohort, and we're just really excited to get the tech in front of people. So CoinFest is the main event that sort of happens in Southeast Asia every August. And so there'll be a huge Polkadot presence at that, and that'll roll straight into, the PBA. And so we're really excited to have like, a lot of the people from Parity and the Web3 Foundation, which will come out. We're hoping to get, some of the media representation from the Kusumerian, which will come out again. And hopefully any teams that are in the region or would like to come to this part of the world. We put on a bit of a show last year, and we're able to show how you can build something in this part of the world. And from a Mandala side, we're an open book, so anyone who wants to come and build in this space, we're here to give you the royal tour. But we're very excited that there's been a lot of faith put in this part of the world and emphasis, especially from like the PBA.
I could not recommend enough, going to Bali during that week for CoinFest, PBA now. But also there was a lot of side events. I mean, there was these Web3 meetups. I think I spoke on a panel with Matt. And yeah, just the general excitement. There's a lot of digital nomads and expats in Bali. So you have people from all around the world just super hungry to build things and create things. I cannot recommend enough. So if you're listening and you are in Southeast Asia, or if you're anywhere in the world, if you need an excuse to get over to Bali, CoinFest is the perfect one. You'll meet the team from Mandala. And that a lot of crypto conferences, I feel like, are just kind of the same thing. It's like a booth, people walk around. It's just kind of boring. But CoinFest felt like an actual festival. It felt like a music festival for blockchain. And it's, right on the beach, perfect weather. So can't recommend it enough. Let's, so, you guys, you started doing this during COVID. You've been building, heads down. Are we close to launch? Like what? Tell us about the next few months, or what you can. I know, some stuff is still tightly held, but any exciting stuff you can kind of share with us?
We're so itching to launch this because we can see the adoption bubbling and below the surface, and we come at it from two different angles, I guess. Like, there's the Indonesian community that will get involved in Mandala because it is, a local project, and they'll have a chance to interact with their government on chain for the first time. And so we do see that there's a huge groundswell of just Indonesia that's waiting for Mandala to launch, but also from just a Polkadot perspective, the community's been amazing and supportive and have gotten behind us in ways that we couldn't imagine. And so we're itching to launch. Technically, we're pretty ready to go.
Okay.
We're waiting on our partners at the moment before we can
Cool.
get the good green light. And so I know we've been saying imminently, and we said Q1 and then Q2, but it is imminent.
Yeah.
So stay with us. I would say that, you know, we're all going to be celebrating on Mandala Live by CoinFest, that's for sure. But yeah, it's coming. We're just waiting on the final green light from a few of our local partners here before we can go live with these products. But technically, we're ready to go, and there will be sort of like that public sort of test net that if you want to deploy applications on Mandala and play around with it, I think from next week you can do that. So we'll stay tuned with the Mandala X account, and you'll get all the docs and the links about how you can do that. We've had to build a lot of it behind the scenes as well, just from a government ramifications type sort of situation that we're in. But man, it's exciting what's happening. And I wish we could have just like a live stream on some of the meetings and some of the things that we've been able to sit in on and see over this last few months. But yeah, it's locked and loaded, the bullets in the chamber, and we're just waiting for the launch.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Super exciting. Really looking forward to this one. Tell the viewers where they can follow you guys for updates. Just tell us your personal Twitter. You're a familiar face on AAG, but if people want to stay up to date with Mandala Chain and especially around the launch, they'll probably, there'll be a token as well, of course, Campang. Where can people learn all about this? So I've put Mandala Chain's X account here. What about your X account?
Yeah, you can follow along on Republic Labs, Republic with a K. We actually produce a lot of content on there. We do something like 40 different written pieces a week. There's video content. Obviously, our Indonesian channel is quite large, but we started producing it all in English as well. So follow along. My personal one is just Michael _Republic with a K. Mine's less interesting. Sometimes it's me ranting about my football team, but a lot of the technological stuff from crypto will come. Super excited. If you want to come and just check out exactly everything that's happening, follow Mandala, follow Republic Labs. We'll have all the information, the updates. We've got a Discord, we've got a Telegram, we've got a YouTube channel, so you can check out everything that we do. But just, you touched on this really briefly, and I do want to say this before we go.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're doing something that has never been done before in the blockchain space. And I can honestly say I know people claim this all the time, but this has never been done.
I'm listening.
So the native token of the Mandala chain is called Kepeng, KEPENG. The ticker will be KPG.
Nice.
Now, the reason why this is unique is because this actually was an ancient currency. This actually was a proper currency that existed. There was an empire that ruled all of Southeast Asia called the Majapahit Empire. And you've probably seen these before, because they flooded all over China as well. Gold coins with a square on the inside of them. And they were made on either like gold or copper. And this was the actual ancient currency that ruled all of South Asia, effectively.
And people carried them on a string, right? Like you would carry them on a little string because there's a hole in the middle.
Correct. And so this is how trade happened in this part of the world. Colonization happened, and then Kepeng was forbidden from being a currency, and we went to fiat currency, and they became more symbolic and ceremonial, and people still, decorate their religious ceremonies with them, or they'll decorate their houses with them. But we are rebooting an ancient currency, except this time, instead of being secured by the gold that they're made on, they're now secured by block space.
I love it.
So the reboot of an ancient currency will be our native token.
That's so cool. I love all of the, what do you say? Like the integration or the history of the Mandala. You have the name Mandala, the Sanskrit, and then the Campang coin. So I absolutely love it. I'm going to be for sure looking forward to the launch. And I just encourage everyone to follow you guys at Mandala Chain on Twitter. Stay up to date. As Michael said, things are imminent. You're not going to want to miss this one. So go ahead and follow them. Michael, thanks so much for your time. Let's do this again soon when you guys, whenever you want, really, just let me know. We got to talk again.
We'll come back soon.
Cool. All right, Michael, thanks very much. Take care.